Welcome to our final day of week 3, day 15 of Celebrate 21. My name is Lisa Lozano, and I am one of the productivity coaches with Century 21 University. And I'm so excited to have you here with us today. We have a great panel to share some very insightful information with you. We know in our industry, to create a sustainable business, we need to go from the concept of chasing individual listings and coming up with items and activities and talk tracks so that we can maximize that listing and turn them into multiple transactions. What I'd like to do is introduce each one of our panelists. But before we get started, just a few reminders. Make sure to please keep yourselves muted as well as video turned off. However, we are very much encouraging questions. So utilize that chat box. It's so much fun to see where everybody's tuning in from today. So keep that coming in. Also, our panelists might want to know how long you've been in the real estate industry. So please feel free to share that with us as well. I would like to start with an introduction of Aaron. Aaron, are you there with us?
I certainly am.
Okay, well, why don't you go ahead and give us your introduction?
Okay, I'm Aaron Gray. I am a realtor with Century 21 Advantage Gold, and I am in the Elkins Park area, which is Montgomery County, just outside of Philadelphia. I've been in the business since 2008. I joined Century 21 in 2015, and it was the best decision that I made.
I like hearing that. I think it's the best decision we all made. Thank you so much, Aaron. Cabot?
Hey there. Sorry. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Got it. Hey there. All right. So I am Cabot Brown. Thanks for having me again today. And I'm with Century 21 affiliated. I serve the Tampa, Florida market, greater Tampa Bay. And not to brag, I'm actually kind of complaining it's cold out here in the shade. It's like a high of 71 today. And if you know cold in Florida, that's cold for us. So not to toot that. I've been in the real estate business now for technically 4 years, with Century 21 my whole time, but full-time as an agent for 2 years. So 2019 was my first full-time year. I was blessed to make the Centurion production. And then last year, 2020, that was my second year full-time in the business. I did double Centurion, became a president's producer. So very off to a great start. Keep it up, I hope.
Absolutely. And you've got a lot of great things to share with us. And Dawn, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right. My name is Dawn Segrin. Again, 2 days in a row. I am located in the Tri-Cities, Washington. That is, if you're not familiar with it, it's the Columbia Valley. It's on par with Napa for wine producing, so it's a great place to live. I've only been with Century 21 for 17 months. I moved here from Arizona, but I've been in the industry since 1977. So, and I'm in management now. And you ask what our passion is. My best year, I sold 101 units. It's like Dalmatians. I sold 101. And my passion is farming and circle prospecting.
Oh, good. That's one of my favorite methods too. And I think it is so underutilized. So really excited to hear a little bit more about that. Thank you so much. So I'm going to start with a question. There's a couple of different scenarios with it, but I did want to break it down into each opportunity. So we know that listings are the greatest source of having that ability to leverage our business. So with each listing, what specifically do you do, have you done, do you suggest in order to get additional buyers from these sources when it comes to, let's start with sign calls. So Cabot, I'm going to jump around with you guys. Why don't you go first?
Yeah. So for me with sign calls, these are always, what I found is capture for me. I was just originally, I get the phone call and I'd say, hey, of course they want to know about the listing. Originally, I was just telling them the price, all the details about it, and then the phone call would be over with. I was making a terrible mistake by not capturing their information. I learned that the hard way multiple times. So now I really, before I get into anything, I'm always saying, you know, off the bat, hey, I'm sorry, I missed, I missed your name. And they most of the time never give me their name, but they make, you know, what I like to do. I kind of blame the phone for a lot of it. I'll say, hey, I'm sorry, it cut out. Or, hey, while I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to do, I'll blame the connection. And so literally, I'll say, hey, I'm walking, you know, I'm sorry, I missed your name. They'll tell me their name 9 times out of, I mean, I've actually probably never had anybody not tell me their name. And then I'll tell them right away, regardless if it's true or not, hey, I'm walking into an appointment. You know, I made a full brochure about this property, and with all the things that you're not going to see online. What's a good email? I'll send it over. I found that I don't really ask for permission to do that. I just ask for their email address, and they like to spit it right out. And of course, you know, you have to follow up with them, or at least get back to them. What I found is you're probably not the first sign that they've called. And you might not be the last, but as soon as I can really start showing them value with nothing in return, they start, you know, now they're bringing me their questions, or what do you think of this property? So capturing their info wherever I can, name, phone numbers, because they've called me, caller ID exists. I've got that already. Sometimes I'll ask them if I can text it just to see where the permission might come from a buyer if they give it to me. But then I'm giving them value as soon as possible. So most of the time I won't be busy when they call, but I'm going to tell them I am. Then I'm going to get to my computer, figure out how to get that info to them, and then start giving them value, because I'm trying to convert them before they find that next sign that they're going to call.
That's great. I know in today's world, a lot of people don't even like to make phone calls. We've gotten to where we prefer to text, or a lot of people do. But I do have to say, when the call is made, a lot of people don't answer their phones if they don't recognize the number. And in our industry, that's a big challenge. And I have to say, when I was setting up this panel and I called Cabot out in Florida from California, I know he didn't have my number in his phone, but sure enough, he answered the phone call. So that's great information and a suggestion, Cabot. Thank you so much. Aaron, what would you say to that question about capturing buyers?
Well, the same thing that Cabot does. And then I also want to qualify whether or not they're currently working with a realtor. Because if they're working with someone else, then, I mean, I'll still send them information. You know, we do that single property, unique property website. So I'll send that. Then just like Cabot says, you want to try and get that email address so that you can send them some information. If I'm able to get the email address, then I'll also put them on my newsletter. I'll, you know, have them in my database so that I can, as Cabot said, send them some information, show them some value, reach out to them later on and see how things are going, and possibly, you know, see if they're where they are, if they're a cash buyer, if they're an investor. So I'll try to qualify them as much as I can, and then from there we'll see what happens.
That qualification is really important. And I think that you're right. Knowing that they're working with another agent is really, you know, good to know, but at the same time, we all also know that a lot of agents give up after reaching out and a little bit of a lack of response. And so the fact that you're, you know, gathering all that information so that you can move forward and be that agent to follow up with them is wonderful. Dawn, how about you with the capturing buyers from your listing and that sign call?
I very similar to Cabot. I always say, you know, I'm Dawn and your name is, and very seldom do they refuse. They just automatically. I love our new technology. I shouldn't say it's new, but you know, 43 years in the business. I love the fact we've already captured their phone number. So we're already able to text. We're already able to, you know, basically stalk them. So, but one of the first questions, you know, I tell agents, don't ask them how many bedrooms and baths they want. That's so overused. It's like, So I always ask them, you know, tell me specifically what interested you in the home. I kind of want to engage them. I want to find out if, you know, ask them how long they've been looking. But my big question is usually, and I train my agents, tell me specifically what interested you in this home so that I know. And then, you know, take it from there. You know, how long have you been looking? Do you live in the area? Do you live in the neighborhood? So we find out if it's a nosy neighbor, maybe it's a prospective seller. I know we're talking buyers, but maybe it's a prospective seller. So maybe they're stalking me to find out, you know, how I know. So those questions, I want to know, do they own, do they rent? How long have they lived there? So it depends on how long I can keep them on the phone. But you're right, the most important thing is to be relentless. We need the appointment. We want to make sure that we make the connection and ask questions that are going to be of interest to them, not the same old questions they're going to get from everyone else.
That's great. I think we heard both ends of the spectrum, and then everything in between with you and Cabot, where Cabot says, no matter what, I'm kind of always saying, hey, I'm walking into a listing appointment, taking a little bit of a different approach, or maybe it is
like
just
that.
having that list of questions ready to go if you're in a position where you can take that opportunity to gather more information from them. Now, I do see a
Lisa,
couple.
before you go on, can I add one more thing on
Of
what
course.
Dawn was saying? So Dawn talked about getting that appointment. Now, for me, if they're not working with another agent, I have no problem taking them out to see one property, because what I'll say to them is, this is our interview. This is the opportunity. It still goes to showing them value. This goes to letting them know that, hey, you get to interview me, I get to interview you. And then we can determine whether or not we do have a basis on which we can do business together. And because I'm willing to take that time without a commitment from them, it kind of may raise my stock with them. And I think being able to meet them in person, see them, talk them, feel them, vibe with them versus just having a conversation on the phone, I think that causes your stock to rise a little bit.
I love that, Aaron, because you're right. If you have nothing else going on and you have an opportunity to meet them in person, not only are you able to build that connection and start building that rapport and that relationship, but also you're getting to preview property, right? Seeing what's out there on the market. So it's not even like it's a waste of your time if they don't even ultimately end up working with you. So I love that.
At
Now,
least at one point, I'm sorry, one on that
go
too.
ahead, you guys.
I think it's a great point, Aaron. If you can also, and maybe even tie it into showing the property they're calling about, you're getting a win with your seller as well, bringing a buyer through that door. So you kind of almost like killing two birds with one stone, but everybody get three people happy now instead of two.
Yeah, but why are we killing the birds, man?
Can't say that now.
I'm an Eagles fan. We can't kill the birds.
A Bucks
All
fan.
the birds save the bills.
Oh, there you go.
That's great, you guys. So I saw a couple of hands go up, and so I think it was Chris and Justin. If you guys could do me a favor, if you do have questions, if you could go ahead and type those into the Q&A box, that way I can pull the questions out from all the conversation that may take place in the chat. Maybe that was just an error, but anybody, if you do have questions, if you hover towards the lower end of your screen, you'll see that Q&A chat box where you can put those in, and we'll come back to them as we're going through our presentation today. Well, let's move on to the next source. And again, this is for capturing buyers, social media. So let's start with you first, Aaron, this time.
Well, social media that's the creme de la creme. Everybody and their grandmom is on social media. So it's half the cost, half the time, and it's so many things that you can do with social media. You can post surveys, everything doesn't have to be real estate. That's the first thing. And so as you see, I have my book there. That's one of the chapters in my book. I talk about social media and the different things we can do. And so you can post calendars. I mean, not calendars. You can post recipes. You can post things to get them engaged. You can do the live videos. You can do so much with social media, and it just goes all the way out there. We know that video is at the top of the food chain. So if you do a video on social media, it's going to get engaged. If you do a story on social media, you're going to get engagement. So all of those things. And for me, I can honestly say that has been the number one thing that helped my business to grow. I've been in real estate, but it wasn't until I got to Century 21 that my business started growing. And one client who is a friend and is very well connected, I asked her, I was very surprised that they had actually selected me because of all the people they know. And I asked her, I said, so what was it that caused me to be your agent of choice? And she said, right out of the back, social media. Every time I turned around, there you were. And so you stayed top of mind. Don't have to spend a whole lot of time. Don't have to have a whole lot of amazing content. You have to have some good content. And I would say sprinkle some real estate into it. Everything doesn't have to be real estate. If everything is real estate, then folks are going to get bored with you.
Absolutely. You become a commercial rather than a person that they can get to know and engage. And you're right. For the most part, they are watching you and you don't realize it to get to
Absolutely.
know and see if you're someone that they would like to work with. Dawn, how about you?
I'm going to take a little bit of a turn and say I tell my agents that, you know, they also need to be social monitoring and social listening. They need to watch for hashtags. They need to really be conscious of what's going on, and so that they can connect with the right people at the right time. So, you know, I mean, make a list of keywords and hashtags and things that and phrases that you're looking for, and then make sure that you're using them in your posts as well. And I agree with Erin. It can't all be real estate or they're going to be bored with your site. They need to know who you are. They need to know a little bit about you, you know, whether you're a dog rescuer or you build houses for habitat. You never know what's going to attract a buyer or a seller. So I always tell my agents, make sure that you're showing your authentic self in your social media, as well as you know, basically when I say, you know, social monitoring and social listening, be a semi-stalker, you know, I mean, see what's going on out there, find out what the latest and greatest is, and latch on. So
I like that you brought up the term social listening. A lot of times on social media, if we're not careful, it becomes all about us, right? But to be able to take the time and actually set aside time to social listen so you can watch for those conversations or those posts of people who may not come out and say, I'm ready to looking to buy a home, but something that I'm having triplets, or my job is getting transferred, or I just got a promotion. Those are all key signs that someone may have the need to look to purchasing a new home. Cabot, what about you in social media?
Yeah, absolutely. Big, not to kill two birds last time or beat a dead horse this time. That was a bad analogy. I couldn't think of something
Leave the
different.
animals
Sorry.
alone. Leave the animals alone.
I am an animal lover. But what I was getting at, UBU is 100% correct, and being relatable is what I found to be really what connects with my audience professionally and personally. I spoke on Monday. I get 22 likes when I do a real estate post. That's my average. When I post with my daughter, it's about 147. And I know those same followers are seeing my other pictures. But and kind of to Don's point, you are being interviewed with what you're putting out there on social media. So your pictures, your posts, how you conduct yourself. Like the last thing I'll ever do is talk politics, unless the White House went up for sale. Maybe I'm trying to sell that. Maybe, but ultimately, you know, you're going to cut half your audience, and some people might not. You know, that's okay for some people if you want to run your business that way. But you're really, you know, it's all about getting bigger expansion, bigger network, growing, and becoming like massive, like an empire. Is what I like about social media. Another part is, you know, when we close, we get to know some information. We get to know their closing dates, right? That's something we should be doing. But when you're following almost to that social listening, I'm picking up anniversary dates when it's wedding anniversaries. I'm picking up children's names, children's birthdays, and now that's going into my CRM. And when those points happen next year, and so on and so forth, and now they're getting a card not just for their birthday, but for their son's birthday, their daughter's birthday, their anniversary. This isn't just one touch point a year. Now I'm 3, 4, 5 by doing nothing more than listening to what they're putting out in front of you. You know, that's big for me. What I also like is the polls, maybe more specific of a product with social media polls, and ask me a question. A campaign I'm starting next month is we have April, right? 30 days. So I'm doing 30 days, 30 different questions, 30 different answers in 30 seconds or less. So basically right now I'm starting to solicit to my audience, talk to me about what do you want to know about real estate? I'm going to answer one question a day for 30 seconds. And those folks that tune into that, like that, engage with that post, those are leads. They're listening for a reason. And then the folks sending me those questions, okay, why are you asking me how much you want, or what's a necessary down payment, right? There's probably I won't say an ulterior motive, but you very much likely might be trying to save to buy a house. Now you're a buyer in my eyes, right? And I'm going to start marketing that way to you.
I think that's genius to come up with a little, like you said, just a reason for you to go on social media every day for a month, for a reason for people to look forward to tuning into you. to where you're not sounding like that commercial or just posting the just listed every day on social media. It's going to be interactive. It's going to be fun. And you're asking them, what do you want to know? I love that idea. I'm going to write that one down.
There you go.
And Lisa, there's another thing, with social media that we know that there are stats out there, but we cannot get tricked by the stats, because there are some people that are watching everything you do. They will never like, they will never comment, but they see you in the store like, hey, that was really cool what you posted. Like, I didn't even know we were still friends. And so, classic example, I have a family friend, never says anything, never comments about anything. But as soon as I advertised the book yesterday, she's in my inbox. Hey, I need your book. I'm in real estate school. And so she's watching, even though she never says anything. And so we have to realize that when we're out there on social media, when we're sleeping, people are scrolling and they're coming across our stuff.
That's absolutely right, Aaron. Not everybody is comfortable interacting on social media, but they go there for information. You hear a loud bang in the middle of the night, you can jump on social media and people are, posting and things like that. So again, to just be providing the information, you're staying top of mind and they know who to reach out to as a resource when that time comes.
Yeah, and I would say, last but not least, is make sure that you're calendaring. Don't spend your life on social media. Definitely set I've talked to some of the best. Darren Hardy always says he spends an hour every Sunday and books everything he's going to do for the following week. He's done. And so, don't waste your life on social media. It's a great, great resource, but really, we can also fall into that rabbit hole. So, calendar it, keep track, calendar it, do your research, and then make it just a part of your business plan.
You said something really profound there, Dawn, and you're right. You can go down the rabbit hole. It's all a matter of social media can be a very effective platform for prospecting and marketing, but it needs to be purposeful during that time that you have calendared it. Like you said, that's part of your working on your business time. Go down the rabbit hole later at night and do your enjoyment of things, which is also still contributing to staying top of mind with people. But there is a way to be purposeful with your business on social media. So we have a question here in the chat box, you guys. What social media platform do you feel is most important? So I'm just going to go across the line. Aaron, do you have a favorite?
Well, my son, my youngest son, who is a client as well, he won't let me go on Twitter. He said that's his platform. So I tweet every day, but I tweet via Facebook. When you think about platforms, I think you have to understand who your client is, who you're trying to target. The millennials, they're going to be on Twitter. They're going to be on, what's the other one? TikTok. They're going to be on Instagram. I don't want to get into fair housing, but the senior, I'm a senior because I'm Aaron Gray Senior. But those of us who have some years under the belt, we may be on Facebook. LinkedIn is more professional. And so it really depends on whether you're looking for buyers, whether you're looking for sellers. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. I haven't done the TikTok yet, but those are the ones that I'm on. And as I say, you don't have to be on all of them and you don't have to know all of them. But what you do have to do is determine who your audience is. And then you want to make sure that you're consistent. That's the biggest thing. You want to be consistent. Don't post at 2:00 today and then 4:00 tomorrow. And then over here, people want to be able to know the news comes on at 11:00. And so as Cabot, I saw one of your videos. It was amazing with this beautiful home. And so when you see those things, it's like you want to know that at 12:00 this is happening, at 7:00 this is happening. You're free to do whatever else you want in between there, but at least have that consistency so they know what to expect.
Great. So Cabot, when you are doing your 30 days, 30 seconds, 30 questions, are you going to do it at the same time every day? Maybe go live? I'm kind of going off there just a little bit, but or have you even taken that into consideration yet?
I probably will do a couple live, not always. I'm going to do my different types of the day and kind of answer that question to tie it in. I'm big on Facebook and Instagram, those two. I'm on all platforms, but to Aaron's point as well, my material on LinkedIn is professional, very market info, not look at a picture of my daughter, look at a picture of the house I sold, not like in your face stuff, but just more like, okay, you're probably on this because you're looking for a new job, but maybe you also might want to look and see kind of what's happening in the market, almost like not Inman, but almost basically a product, putting it out there as a being your real estate advisor within your social feed of LinkedIn. But I've got a business page and personal pages on both of them on Instagram and Facebook. I like tracking the analytics of my Instagram. So I know that the majority of my followers, which is really my audience. I know I've got people probably everywhere that just, maybe you're just interested, or I hit a hashtag. I like to grill. So some people follow me just because I grill out a lot, but ultimately 9 p.m. is where I'm getting most engagement on my audience. So in answer to your specific question, I'll probably do most of my stuff in the evening, but I'm also going to change it up. So it's not maybe the same. If I'm at a home inspection and the question ties to a home inspection, that's where I'll be answering it and probably trying to do some like actual examples, like, hey, this is what we look for on a 4-point. These are your major 4 points, whatever it might be. So, all the above. And the best part about social media, right, it's free. I mean, you could boost ads, but why wouldn't you want to put free marketing? And kind of to Don's point, you can set it and forget it. And there's a lot of different platforms that allow you to do that. And what I post on Facebook will go right into my Instagram feed and vice versa. And you can, of course, make that and just broaden your extent. So now you're doing one post on 6 different platforms.
I'm sorry.
No, Don, go ahead.
I was going to say, because I'm in management now. And so I train my agents that most of the hits still are Facebook #1 and Instagram #2. So if you're going to learn to use social media, start there, because as Cabot said, Facebook feeds to Instagram, Instagram feeds to Facebook. So you're going to get both platforms, but really learn it and definitely do a Facebook business page. And then, of course, talk to your managers to make sure that you're following all the C21 guidelines and everything. But honestly, those two, I mean, they're in the billions of hits monthly. So those are the ones you want to follow first, and then learn the others.
I think that that's a great point to make, because so many, even if you look at the statistics, the majority of people, so Facebook and Instagram are right up there in the top 5. And it's interesting, Cabot, that you said you're getting the most traction at 9 p.m. For me, like, and I'm not selling, but it used to be 7 p.m. But I was just telling, I think my last social media class that I'm finding that the majority of my activity now is closer to 9 p.m. rather than the 7 p.m. hour. And I don't know what's causing that. So, but it'll be different for everybody.
The pandemic, Lisa. Everybody's home all day. They're on the computer, so they're working longer hours. They're taking naps and they're doing all that stuff. And so they get up late at night at 9 o'clock and they go on social media.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was wine time.
Wine time.
I thought it was wine time. Sorry.
So that question had come from Christy, and she says, thank you for saying what time you get the most activity on social media. I have been trying to figure that out myself. I have also found that my videos get more likes and views.
Absolutely. Video is going to be you get the most turnaround. And the reason for that is people are lazy. And I'm not being mean, but it's easier to watch a video than to actually read what's going on. So somebody will watch a video. As long as you can capture their attention and keep them, they'll watch the video.
Yes, absolutely.
If and I don't know whoever asked that question, if they don't have a business page, so to set up, make sure they do that, because I'll give you an idea. So sorry, let's see if I can make this work. All right, so within Instagram, you're literally checking days of the week, you're checking gender, ages. It's going to be able to break down really your audience and the peak time they're performing. So if not, just convert or get yourself into a business, because that information is valuable.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, let's go on to our next area of opportunity. So when we have this when you have the listing and we're trying to turn into multiple transactions, Don, I'll start with you around the topic of circle prospecting to get those buyers.
It's one of my favorite topics ever. And I basically, my largest portion of my business was a geographic farm and circle prospecting. So it's very close to my heart, and I train to it at our office. I love going out with a new listing, either circle prospecting by phone but my favorite is face to face. And yeah, COVID put a little bit of a damper on that, but face to face, I just took a great new listing over on 123 Main Street. And we know that when one home sells, normally two or more go on the market right away. So I was wondering, and then I go into my scripts. I go into the C21, or I was a Mike Ferryite, so I use the Mike Ferry scripts, and I discover motivation. And as I've told my agents, I'm not looking for someone who doesn't want to sell. I'm looking for someone that does. So circle prospecting, I always told my agents, and I always did this if I was doing an open house, and I apologize because this is still circle prospecting. I circle prospect the neighborhood. I made sure that I did 5 on either side of the house and 10 across the street. So I invited them to the open house. So it was still circle prospecting. I did that on my new listings. I did that on my just solds. I still sent out postcards, but I think just face to face always, I don't know, I had great results. So I really, really strongly believe in circle prospecting. And I believe it's the phone and the face first. Social media is great, mail's great, but it's your face and the phone. And if you can't do those, well, then go to the others. But hey, we're starting to come out of our shells, out of the COVID nightmare, and you can start seeing people again.
Absolutely. Okay, Cabot, how about you?
Yeah, for circle prospecting. So I did. I talked about this a lot on Monday too. And I do mail and I do door knocking specifically. And that was mainly because I'm newer. And when you start looking at the cost of these phones and these dialers, they get up there pretty quick. So ultimately, but I do agree, worth every penny if you do that. First up is I practice my scripts. But second, then a new home hits like my listing hits the market. I'm sending a letter to that neighborhood, and I'm not doing necessarily 5 or 10 or 20 per every direction around that house. I'm literally knocking or mailing the entire neighborhood. When I feel that letter or my I guess me at their front door is not relevant, that's usually where I'll draw the line. If I'm talking about a neighborhood with 1,000 homes, postage is not cheap, so I might make my quadrant a little bit tighter, but ultimately, I'm mailing a just listed. I'm introducing myself and I'm introducing the house, which is a win for my seller, obviously a win for me. Then I'm knocking on the door to do the same thing, to essentially let them know I just put their home on the market. Having some information about the home, being able to tell them, maybe the seller's last name, tell them the price, just more details. Ideally pairing that with an open house so I can introduce the open house at the front door. And then I'm moving to the next house. When the home sells, so let me back up a second. And I put those letters into my presentation on Monday. So if you want to see the actual letters I mail out, take a look at that. But ultimately, I'm introducing the property and then I'm asking them if they know of anybody wanting to move in the neighborhood. I'm also introducing the fact that when this happens, you might now be more interested in what your home is worth. I'm catching a lot of seller leads on my circle prospecting more than anything. And then I'm doing it one more time when the home sells. I'm mailing that same audience that I sent it to. Now I'm letting them know the home sold. I'm introducing that price to them if it's a favorable price, which we can all kind of gauge for the neighborhood. But if it's going to probably pique their interest, I'm adding it. And now I'm saying that I have received multiple phone calls, whether I did or didn't. I'm letting them know I got multiple people, multiple prospects wanting to buy that home, that I'm wondering if they've had any thoughts of selling, because I really need some more homes like this because I've got a lot more buyers now. And that's where I'm getting a lot of phone calls saying, hey, you did a great job for so-and-so. Can we meet? And then we set that appointment.
Nice. And Cabot was mentioning his earlier presentation. So if you go back to the event page for Celebrate 21, you can watch the recording of that. Aaron, how about you with circle prospecting?
So I don't send out mailers to all of the properties. I send them out to properties where I want more listings in that area. And with the weather, the door knocking, we can't do much of that. But that's really what I do in that regard. I sent one out that says, "Help! I sold this house and we need more houses to sell." And people started calling. One lady, she called and says, "Why are you bothering me? In my country, we're paperless. You need to learn it. Click for me." And people, I mean, the challenge is there's a lot of scams going on. And so I had one guy that called me and said, "Hey, we're not selling our house." and he thought I was just mailing something to his mom. So I had to kind of educate him like, hey, listen, this is what we're doing. We listed a property. We're letting folks know if anybody in the area is thinking about buying or selling, then, we're here to assist. So I do it. I don't do it consistently, but if it's an area that I really want to be in or a price range that I really want, then I'm definitely going to do it in that area.
That's a great point. Not just
I agree with Cabot too, that I always did the just listed cards, the just sold cards, but I also knocked. So I was a big door knocker. So with dog
very,
biscuits in my pockets.
that's
There you
right,
go.
the dog biscuits. Everyone's out walking their dog during the day now because they're working from home. That's a great idea. Find out what time the neighbors are out there walking. Okay, so the next topic is capturing additional clients from open houses. Let's start with Aaron.
Well, I'll say off the back, I believe that open houses are a pre-internet practice. However, they can be used as a tactic or as a strategy. And so if I do it, particularly now, we'll list the property at one point and then don't have any showings until the open house, particularly if there's a family there, so that you don't have to disrupt them as much. And so if you list it, kind of dangle a carrot, look what I've got, look what I've got, let everybody come on that open house. And from there, nine times out of 10 in this market, you're going to get a buyer from it. With the COVID, we basically had them do appointments. So there were 15-minute slots. You could only come in if you missed your slot. I've seen folks lining up around the corners for the open houses. It's just a lot. So I'm not a huge fan of it. But if my client wants one, we'll definitely do it. And like I say, in this climate, if there's a family that's there, then we'll definitely do it to cut down on the disruption for their lives moving forward.
We have a question. It's it's interesting, Aaron. A lot of people have different opinions on open houses, but question here: where do you find out if door knocking is allowed in your farm? And I think that would be a question for your local leadership, broker, owner, manager. We're all in different parts of the world, so that's probably the best person to ask that question, David. Okay, Cabot, what are your thoughts on open houses to generate additional clients?
Yeah, and I'll kind of touch on that question too. If there's a sign in front of the neighborhood that says no soliciting, just be a little respectful. If not, you're going to get some really ticked off folks, and you don't want to do that. So, but basically, for the open houses, I agree with Aaron as far as maybe the pre-internet practice. I wasn't necessarily in the business prior to that. However, what I'm doing is essentially incorporating the internet, marrying the two now. So I do virtual open houses, and what that really means is kind of anything you want it to mean. I'm just now taking my open house. I'm taking a listing video, marketing video, of a branded guided tour of that house. I'm doing that for my seller, putting a product out there. Then I'm using, I'm very big on tracking where money's coming into my market. So I understand that folks are moving into Florida from California, New Jersey, Illinois, Philadelphia, New York. These states, I'm making contacts with agents that are sending, not even them particularly, but if I know business is coming from those towns or states, I'm looking for those agents that would be maybe the ones that would refer that business, that are top producing agents in their respective markets. So now the reason I say that though is because I'm doing sponsored ads on my Facebook into those geographical markets. I'm no longer doing it just towards my own maybe farm. I of course am doing it to my sphere, my own audience, my own followers, but what I've found is I'm getting folks that are signing up or at least watching these in other parts of the country. And kind of like to Don's point earlier, I'm stalking them. Now I'm not afraid to just go into somebody's DMs, if you will, right? Or now I can shoot a message on Facebook Messenger, and I have a one-on-one now with a buyer, maybe not so much, hey, why are you watching my open house? But just kind of dropping a note, thanks so much for watching, or I appreciate, the attendance, or, here's a copy. I'll send them a link directly in case you want to watch it again. And you start getting some engagement that way. But ultimately, having the virtual open house, now I don't have to worry about them coming to my 2 or 3 hours on a Saturday or a Sunday. And again, especially with all in this market, with all these people, the house is gone by the time you do an open house. You're getting a lot more visibility. I'm getting brand recognition with my own audience, but I'm also allowed to market this property to, Joe in New York, who may very well be my buyer in this market. cash at that too. So, that's how I'm doing it.
Great. Love that suggestion. Dawn, do you have thoughts on open houses and capturing additional clients?
I do. I'm encouraging my agents to do the virtual open houses, as Cabot said. We've also got several of our agents that are doing walkthrough Wednesdays. So they're posting on Facebook walkthrough Wednesdays and then walking through the homes. One of the things that our brokerage has done, we've created open house signs that say text to tour. And it says, please text to tour this home. We put it out in front of the house. So number one, we're capturing their information before they're even in the door. We're following the state guidelines. So we're making sure we're letting them in, depending on your state, how many people can come into an open house, how many can visit. But we've created those signs for every one of our agents. So if they're doing an open house, they put the text to tour right in front of the property. And so they have to text, and it's turned out to be a great serendipity. We're probably going to keep doing it because we're capturing their information.
And I think that that's a good point, because what's happening is because we're doing them virtually, like you can really capture information virtually as well. So
True.
much going on, just the crowd control right now. As somebody mentioned here in the chat box, Suzanne says that they're just struggling in Pennsylvania because of the number of people wanting to come through your open house if you do a live one.
Yeah, they have lines going around the corner, and it's crowd control is bananas. So like I say, when I do them, we do appointments, and we might extend the time. Instead of doing a 2-hour open house, we might do a 4-hour open house. And I have other agents that help. The challenge with getting another agent at this point is that since it's by appointment, most of the people coming, you're not picking up anything because they schedule an appointment with their agent. And so you're really going to have to pay somebody to sit the open house because there's no real benefit for them.
Interesting. We've actually had very good results with the text to tour because we only let a certain amount of people in and they can wait. And so, we've had some really great successes with that.
Now, are you putting it just in front of the house, or are you advertising it, marketing it, social media and things as well?
We advertise it and market it through social media, and we let them know that they'll be texting to tour. So,
Okay.
and we've had, last Sunday, we had we had 13 groups in one house and 11 in another. So we're having really good results with the text to tour. So
One thing, since we're on the topic and we're really talking a lot about doing things virtually, let's not forget about virtual open houses through century21.com. So to Cabot's point, where he is using intel to determine where people are moving from into his area, for example, California, maybe, all these other states where somebody can't necessarily come and walk through the property, but to, look at where those people are looking online at his local listings, and then scheduling that virtual open house through century21.com, because more than likely people from outside of the state or outside of your county are looking on the Century 21 website. And you can still live stream whichever platform you're currently using, but that's going to allow you to advertise to a broader audience that you might not necessarily just on your social media or your local MLS where you're posting that information. So great shares there, you guys. And again, if anybody out there has questions, please feel free to go to the bottom of the screen to that Q&A box and type in your questions. There was a question there, but it disappeared. So I know it was for Aaron.
I responded to it.
Pardon me?
Yeah, I responded. They were asking if I only market on social media, and I responded to it. So basically, yeah, social media is my primary place of marketing. I do I boost some posts on social media, and I also do some mailings, but that's not my primary. Social media is my primary marketing.
I love what Cabot said about that. He's basically stalking the people that are coming from different areas. I love that. That's my takeaway. Thank you.
And we can get a lot of, Cabot, would you share with everyone where you're able to gather some of that information?
Yeah. Are you talking about just on the social media where I'm getting their views? Or are you talking about the website I mentioned Monday? I mean, Golden Ruler is an option too. Golden Ruler, you can be able to if you have your client set up on Golden Ruler, that's going to give you a wealth of knowledge as far as maybe where these website hits are coming from. I would then target on a boosted post. So kind of what Aaron was talking about, get your tour, do a quick, 30-second or less, maybe video tour, a teaser, whatever you want to do. Link it to the main open house, which will probably be 2 to 3, probably more like 3 to 5 minutes is what Facebook likes to see actually. And then target those. When I say target, sponsor your ads in those geographical areas. Start looking at who's attending. You'll be able to break it down literally by user, and then just slide into their DMs. The best way to say it, slide in a message to say, hey, here you go. Give them the link, give them that. Maybe also offer maybe send your MLS flyer, whatever it can be. Set them up on your own agent website somehow. Let them know. Be the first to know about things. Kind of that's how I've been doing it. There's a website called howmoneywalks.com. That's also tracking the IRS, really the migration of income as it moves into your state and county lines. So you're really able to start fine tuning, okay, where is the money coming from? And for me, it's showing, I go into state, shows you California, New York, New Jersey, Illinois. But then you can start breaking it down to my county. And I actually was surprised to me that I'm having a lot of business from Miami-Dade, which is Southeast Florida, coming up into the Tampa market. So now I'm making connections with Century 21 agents in those markets as well. That's in state and not just, you're not necessarily looking at the grand country. You're looking over, Golden Ruler tells me that a lot of people are moving from my surrounding counties. So I'm also doing those ads there. And then How Money Walks is really kind of tracking the migration throughout the country.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that How Money Walks is really great. And for somebody who maybe not doesn't currently have any business, they're new to real estate, you can't necessarily go to your Golden Ruler report and pull that information. However, your broker, owner, manager can probably pull that information for your office and give you an idea. I know out here in Northern California, everyone's leaving here, but we have a lot of investors coming from outside of the country. In Alaska, they're seeing on their Golden Ruler report that people in Europe are looking at their properties online. So again, going back to those open houses and being able to capture those people before they even come into your area and establish another relationship, that's great information. I know that the next part of our question was going to change it from a buyer focus to how to capture those additional listings. And I think some of our answers crisscrossed. So I just wanted to maybe blanket that focus on listings and just maybe something that you had made note of that you wanted to share that you haven't shared regarding capturing those additional listings from buyers or sellers. I'm sorry, to capture additional buyers and or listings that maybe you didn't mention yet. So we'll kind of go around and see what you have to share on that. So Aaron, did you want anything that you may have missed in that first question?
Capturing listings?
Right, because we were going to separate buyers and listings, and some of the answers kind of crossed over both areas.
I think even still on social media, and you're right, we do a lot of buyer focused stuff. And it's almost as if we wait for our listings to generate listings. And so one of the things that I did, and I was planning on doing a little bit more, I would do a seller's workshop. Like we do a first time buyer's workshop, but then I did a seller's workshop because a lot of people think that if you bought a house, then you know what to do on the selling side. Totally different experience. And so we can schedule things sort of like what Cabot is saying, hey, what do you need to do to sell the house? How much money can you get for your house? What are buyers looking for? So I think we have to put value added content out there to sellers as much as we do, or even more for the sellers that we do for buyers. Our company is really big on FSBOs. And so we get a FSBO list on a regular basis. And so it's just a matter of us being able to take that list and make those phone calls to follow up with them. So and then we also do expires. So, and honestly, those are my weakest areas. I don't do a lot of the prospecting. It's like, that's the one thing that I have to get better at. I'm good when I do it, but it's like anything else. You get rusty, you get that first negative phone call. You're like, see, this is exactly why I don't want to do this. So those are the things that I would do for the sellers.
Very good. Now, Justin, I saw you had your hand raised. If you have a question, would you mind typing it up in the Q&A box? You'll see that at the lower part of your screen, and we'll make sure to get that answered for you. Don, how about you? Anything that we didn't touch on as far as taking a listing and the sources of signs, social, circle prospecting, and open houses to get additional listings?
I think one of the things that I've encouraged, we do a power hour in our office, and we do a power hour every Thursday, and encourage the agents to join and have a list of their past clients, current clients, sphere of influence, and we just call for an hour. But it's, to Aaron's point, so many agents don't like to prospect, but guess what? That's our bread and butter. And so I actually prospect with them. So I'm on the call, I'm prospecting, and we go on Zoom and we have our chat box. So we just share our wins on chat right now. And obviously when we're out of this situation, we'll be doing it, more in person. But it's how do I want to say it? It's focused prospecting. And that's the thing. I mean, you've got to be focused and you've got to know your message. I know I talked about that yesterday. You've got to know your message, you've got to know your script, and you got to know your outcome. So I firmly believe that every time I took a listing, I called my sphere of influence and I sent them a just listed and a just listed just sold postcards as well. But they also got called from me. And I'd say, do you know anyone that might be interested in this home? Do you know anyone that might be interested in selling right now? So it's a great opportunity. We've got to remember that people, our sphere of influence doesn't mind hearing from us and knowing that we're in business. And I'd much rather have them know I'm in business than forget I'm in business and list with the next guy. So I think, we just need to be, I've said it before, we need to be relentless. I mean, we've got to be relentless in our lead generation, and you've got to and ask. You got to ask.
Ask that question. Yes, and so in Cabot, along those lines, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think I saw on your social media about a listing that you had recently where you did get 2 additional clients. I think it was a buyer and additional listing. So will you tell us that story? And then of course, anything that you have to add to this category of getting additional business from your current listing?
Yeah, sure thing. It's funny because Dawn mentioned Power Hour, and that had a whole different meaning when I was in college. I thought her office was having those crazy parties every Thursday in Power Hour. That's funny. I was like, man, I could move up there. So on
No, that's Friday.
There you go. Hey, today I'm having some margaritas tonight too. Haven't started yet, but okay. So answer your question, Lisa. So I had a home. It was very, very awesome home. Actually, it was about a $1.8 million property, but it had very, very unique. Had a garage. Had 13-car garage, right? So I started breaking down. I'm big on selling the lifestyle, not so much the data that everybody can find online. They can find out the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the square footage. That kind of stuff is easy. Sell the lifestyle. Who needs 13-car garage, right? Somebody probably with cars.
Car collector.
So my video was very much steered toward, or I can't say steered, very much highlighting the car aspect, the garage, not anything about the house really. And so I did target marketing in my social media posts for car collectors, anybody with those keywords we can, public record, most people don't realize public record, you can find out how the registration for all these vehicles, right? So if you start trying to figure out who has 10 plus vehicles registered to them, your list is a lot smaller than everybody who has a car registered to them. Anyway, we started putting that property into their social media posts. And basically you go by name and you can kind of start filtering, go on Cole Realty Resource has some good where you can find email addresses. A lot of people put stuff out in the public, whether they realize it or not. TruePeopleSearch.com. That's let me make sure I have that website correct, because that's a tool that not many agents know about. And TruePeopleSearch.com. And I tell you that because I used to be a cop, right? I used to be in law enforcement. So we got so much information from our suspects by what they gave us blatantly on the internet. All right. Once you put it out on the internet, it doesn't go away. You think it does, but go and you can find out a lot of information by and it's kind of scary actually. So go to that website when you're bored, type in your information. You're probably going to be a little like shocked on what it's going to pull up on you even. And that goes for everybody on the panel today too. But that, so I started targeting the home, putting that home into those types of clients. I got a phone call and answered my phone. That's really probably the biggest thing. Had a conversation with the buyer. We realized he didn't have an agent, did all the qualification questions, set the appointment, got him into the house. And here I am pleasing my seller with, hey, I brought a buyer, this whole thing. we talked about it. It worked out. And then it came down to get creative because he wanted my marketing that I did that won him over to be on his house. And now we're moving from it's a $1.8 million house, great, beautiful home, a county north of us to, now, and that's farther from Tampa. So our market's, so property, your dollar goes a lot farther. So that moved into about a 4,000 square foot equestrian property with a horse farm and another fishing lodge on this lake. I mean, a beautiful thing. So we're taking one transaction and really, I mean, that was, again, not tooting my horn, it's a 6-figure commission on in any way you look at it. So that was a pretty well worth a professional marketing video. And then my homework to do that. Don't get me wrong. There was definitely like sweat equity in there, getting that to plan out and some stressful parts. It's real estate, but it worked out. So it worked out.
Nice. Anything, I love that. Anything else around the topic that we've had going that you didn't get to cover?
Yeah. I like the takeaway of the seller's workshop because I think that's just overlooked so often that Aaron does. But I will tell you that I have never worked, and I'm not a veteran in the business. I've never worked with anybody who asked to sell first. They always found their next house first, even if that wasn't the house that we were going to buy. And most of the time it wasn't because we, especially in this market, we've missed the boat. They need to be under contract. Nobody's really looking at home sale contingencies right now. But so my marketing was geared towards buyers because those buyers were very often sellers that just wanted to buy but had to sell first. So between breaking down scripts, Mike Ferry has great scripts. I do agree with Don on that. Breaking those things down to where you can start kind of qualifying why your motivation level on the purchase. And that's going to really tell me how motivated you are to sell. And then I've also done things like raffling off cans of paint. Nobody wants to win a can of paint unless you're probably trying to improve your house, which was common in the quarantine. Everybody was just bored and home, and that's all they did was home improvement projects. But some of those folks ended up because they wanted to, I kind of did a workshop really like I was tired of letting people waste money, and you're not going to get dollar for dollar for most of your upgrades that you think are important, and they're not. But a fresh can of paint, fresh coat of paint, that smell when buyers walk in, that's going to go a long way. So, who wants to enter my raffle for a fresh can of paint? There's a reason you want paint. Everybody wants the coffee maker, the whatever else I do, right? They just paint's like, okay, now I'm gonna have to work, but there's a reason they're going to work, right? So that's one thing that I took out of it. And then to Aaron and Don's point, prospecting. I read a book called Fanatical Prospecting. Everything I do 7 days a week, doesn't matter what, prospecting is on the forefront, whether I'm at the sandbar in the boat, whether I'm, just at the grocery store with the cashier, doesn't really matter. I'm trying to incorporate how I can help them in some level. That book helped a lot.
No, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to jump to the next question because I want to make sure that we can really get this covered. I think everyone on today's call can attest to low inventory. We are all struggling with low inventory. And so because we are all being faced with this right now, how is that changing your approach? What are you doing differently in your area so that you can get, the pie is there, right? There's so many listings. How are you, what are you doing to change your activities to make sure that you are not only getting your current piece of market share, but potentially growing your market share? So how has this affected what you're doing out there? Dawn?
Unmute, Dawn. This is interesting because I'm in a market. I've moved from 6 million in Phoenix, and we're about 350,000 in the Tri-Cities. We've got less than 300 active properties, so it's just crazy. Power Hour is one of the things that we're pushing to make sure that we're calling everyone. We've got agents knocking doors, actually, hanging door, excuse me, the door hangers. We've got agents sending letters to neighborhoods. I've got a buyer. So we're doing a lot of that. We're doing reverse prospecting. I've got agents really combing the tax revenues in certain areas to look maybe at mortgages. So I tell them, look at the mortgage versus what the price point is. And if it looks like they've got a lot of equity, reach out somehow. So just, I mean, we're having to become more detectives than I've never seen a market of inventory this low. And trust me, I've seen every market. But but honestly, we're basically becoming detectives. I'm showing them how they can go in and search. We're also doing working on looking for absentee owners that maybe are going to be looking to either, you know, buyers or sellers. They want to purchase more inventory, or if they want to unload that home, you know, letting them know what kind of equity they've got in that. So we're just, I guess we're becoming, well, we've always been sources, but we're making sure that that information gets out, that these people know that they've got, you know, with historic interest rates still historically low, and with the appreciation that we've seen in throughout the country in the last, say, 12 to 24 months, that there's a great opportunity. So we're just, we're becoming stronger detectives.
Very good. Aaron, how about you?
I mean, that's the bottom line right there. You have to find out, you know, what's available to you. I mean, we can't pull properties out of the sky, and I think some sellers don't want to sell, even though it's a great time for them to sell because they don't want to be buyers. So they have this great experience where they've got all these people and they think the house is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then when they get out there, they're like, wow, you know, everybody bumping you and doing all this to get into property. So really finding out, you know, where they are. And I think if a person is in a position that they do not have to, as Cabot said, they do not have to sell their current property to buy another property, that's going to put them in a good position. But basically being that detective to find out, you know, hey, who's most likely to sell, you know, and we know that from the data I've seen that the larger houses are what's selling because they're getting more multi-generational people together versus one person over here, one person over there. So just really being able to target those different types of people who may be looking to move up.
Great, great. Thank you. Cabot?
Yeah, 100% same wheelhouse, detective work, bringing my cop side mentality into this. I'm trying to find that buyer, that seller for my buyer. I'm talking like this tip of the spear now. I'm kind of spearheading this home search. Before, right? Okay, we met, be able to do maybe an auto search, be able to try to do a concierge level. So I'm not just sending them useless properties, but now the properties aren't coming because they're not hitting the market. And so what I'm doing is really trying to fine tune. So I do what quick CMAs, RMLS allows us to do a quick CMA. So if I have that same search I would have set up, now I'm just taking the initiative to find that actual property, whether it's marketed or listed or not. Most of the time it's not. And we're doing quick CMAs, knocking on doors to say, hey, I don't know if you understand the equity you have in your home. I've got a buyer willing and able, really liking this fits their criteria. If you have any thoughts of selling, please let me know. That's been successful for about 3 transactions, which is still 3 more I've got. And then those are handcuff transactions. I had the buyer, I had the seller. We worked it out as a win-win, but just like, Aaron was saying, it's so hard because then what are they going to do when they do sell? So sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's definitely worth the sweat equity.
How are you overcoming that objection? Because it's a common one out there. Does anyone have the magic words?
I was going to say, sometimes we need to be counselors as well. And I mean, there's bridge loans available. There's actually companies out there right now that will help you buy before you sell. Extending your closing out so that you have, because I know sellers are fearful. I sell my house, where do I go? So, you know, we've got to be solution based. And so if we can figure out, you know, if they can do a bridge loan, if there's, you know, they can borrow from their 401 for a certain amount of time. There's so many different ways that they can do this, and that doesn't cost them money. I mean, obviously bridge loan does with interest, but borrowing from your 401k, you can put it back. There's a lot of different situations that we can help them with, but I think we've got to be solution based, because so many sellers are, well, wait a minute, I've got to find the house that I'm going to buy before I sell. Okay, how can we make that happen for them?
Great. Let's talk about, we've talked about, our listing and getting additional listings to getting opportunities to working with new buyers. Let's talk about referrals and what the conversations look like, or your processes. Maybe it's not a conversation. Erin, how are you, or have you focused your attention on your current listings to get referrals from that business?
I can honestly say I haven't done a lot in as far as being proactive and asking, do they know of anybody that's looking to buy or sell in that regard? So I don't really have anything that I've done specifically other than, again, the marketing. But again, I come back to the social media because people see it. And I do have a lot of people that reach out to me, people that have joined the company because they've been watching me on social media, people that are going to real estate school because they're watching me on social media. And so the social media is that's my hub. So the majority of the things I'm doing stems from there. But to actually get referrals from them, I haven't been proactive in that.
And you may have, because I do think as people are getting to know you through your social media platforms, when they are being asked who they might recommend, you could very well be that name that they're referring.
Gotcha.
Dawn, how about you?
Unmute.
You're muted.
Unmute.
Don, you're muted.
Unmute, sorry.
Wah, 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 wah.
I'm always afraid the landscaper will show up or something, you know.
Oh, mine does that. Yes.
Yeah. So I would make a point of, when I was working with an agent, buyer or seller, or working with a client, I'm sorry, buyer or seller, and I did something that they found was extraordinary, or something that was above and beyond, and they're thanking me. I'm saying, you know, I'm really happy that you found value in that. And instead of saying, do you know anyone that wants to buy or sell? I'd say, do you know anyone else that would benefit from the services that I offer? And so I'd always, if they were thanking me, I always used it as an opportunity to ask if they knew anyone that would benefit from the services that I offer as an agent. And it was so much, I don't know, it was a kinder close than, do you know anyone that's interested in buying or selling? And I found that once I started looking for those opportunities, our sellers and our buyers are very grateful for the things we do. And I was letting all those opportunities go by. And so I went to, it was a Joe Stump seminar many, many years ago, probably 20 years ago, if you've ever heard of Joe Stump. But he said that he always used that as an opportunity to, you know, softly ask for the business. And I found it was really successful. And I tell my agents that if you've done something and your client says thank you, use it as an opportunity to ask for those referrals.
Great. I love that. Having that script ready to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cabot, how about you?
Yeah, kind of like Don, hit them in the high points is what I do. And I'm okay to ask, knowing that, right, we all know real estate, you're commission based. It's not going to be a big shock to anybody. But if you ever go to the car dealership and you walk in and you say, hey, I like this car, and they're like trying to bring you to the closing table right now, it's like, just, that's a big turnoff. All right. So to me, I've got to wow them. I've got to, in my opinion, be worthy of that referral. So I'm changing, and this was a big takeaway for me when I first started, was I stopped looking at real estate as the transaction, and I started looking at it as the relationship, because I realized that, you know, by doing transaction to transaction, that stunk, because here we are, we're highs, lows, but B, you know, that wasn't good for longevity of what I wanted to build. And then of course, C, I'm trying to, you know, move that into more business. And if I went by they would look at me as a transaction as well, and not a relationship, if I was treating them that way. And it's kind of the same turnoff I have when I go to a cheesy salesperson. I hate it. I don't like being sold to like that. They don't either. So I'm wowing them. And then when I say wow them, I'm trying to go the extra mile. I try to pretend every client's my mom. What would she like right now? Right. I mean, not to try to get romantic, but can I open the door? Chivalry does exist, right? Open the door on certain things if you're doing showings. And I'm talking like front doors, probably not driving people around in cars anymore, but think of it like we've all probably been in an Uber, and if you get in an Uber and like sometimes they're musty, sometimes the guy doesn't talk to you, and then the music is just whatever they want to hear, and that's fine. Then you go to other Ubers and there's like a menu of a playlist. They ask what you want to hear. There's water, there's phone chargers, it changes nothing, right? I mean, maybe a little AC, you might burn a little bit more miles to the gallon, but ultimately you're giving a much better experience to your client. And when you do that, then you hit them on the high notes, just like kind of Don, right? If I'm going to the point, like when I tell them their home failed inspection is not when I'm saying, by the way, you know anybody else that wants this experience too, right? It's when you've got them, they've got multiple offers, or you've got them under contract above asking. And I try to make it a point to ask for referrals 2 or 3 times throughout the process, but I tell them up front. So I paint the picture that, hey, I'm committed to it. Basically, I'm committed to providing you with a stellar service, and I work exclusively by referral. And ultimately, if you feel that I'm worthy of that, I'm going to probably ask if you know anybody else who would like my services. But I'm not going to ask you for that until I've at least earned it from you. And I find when laying that out a little bit, it seems to kind of take the pressure off. They're just like, oh, great, that's cool. They kind of blow it off, and that's fine. But then I don't feel bad bringing it up later. And again, it's at the high point. And then that's worked for me in getting other names, other phone numbers, email addresses, whatever it be.
I love the term hitting them at the high points. That's a great way to look at it. And so even to be purposeful about that, making a list of when those, because the transactions pretty much primarily go through the same process. So knowing when those high points are, figuring out what it is you want to say, how you want to say it. Also, go ahead.
No, so I'm sorry. I'll say, well, also that there's multiple of those throughout a lot of transactions. It's not always you got the best transaction ever and you're at the high point to the closing table. I've had plenty that are amazing, and then on not any fault to us, right? The lender delayed or some problem that we can't control. You're their agent. So I'm not saying take fault for them, but they're going to look at you like, why did this mess up? Even though you did everything you could. So if let's say that got so sour to where you're not really like the person they like to see at the closing table, but here you are, you've at least got the one you asked for earlier when there was a high.
Oh, good one.
Very, very true. Very, very true. I think that when you ask for referrals after the transaction, you're much less likely to get them because they're focused on their move. They're focused on moving on. But if you're asking for referrals, like Cabot said, the high points of the transaction, when you've gone above and beyond and they're recognizing that, you're going to have much better luck with them.
And that high point usually, for either the buyer or seller is going to be either the house going into contract or the buyer getting their offer accepted. Boom, there's your first one.
It can be early for sure.
Well, and it can even be during the inspection. Maybe you've got an inspection that looks like it's just going to turn the deal sideways, and somehow you and the other agent and everyone works through it, and it turns out to be a win. And they're happy. It's like, wow, okay, we got this done. That's a great opportunity. So I agree with Cabot. There are various opportunities throughout the transaction that you're going to hit a home run.
I want to do a quick little thing because, of course, Century 21 is all about providing extraordinary experiences, right? Define mediocrity. So let's not forget anyone watching our Brilliant Basics. That's a 4-day workshop that we do about being able to provide that extraordinary experience, going above and beyond and making it more of an experience. Like Cabot said, it's not just a transaction or a deal anymore. It's creating that relationship. And so I highly recommend that class. Miss Catherine Carr is the one who usually facilitates that. So to check that out.
Lisa, one thing, and not to just pound it, but you're also, when you're doing that, what I've realized is I'm making that experience as amazing as possible. That now that is marketing for me as well. When those clients are likely introducing me to the prospect before I ever get on the phone or involved in that transaction, which makes the quality of the referral so much better. The handoff is just very organic. You don't feel like, hey, I'm so-and-so calling out of the blue. You're at dinner with your family, you're on vacation, and they're at the party talking you up, right? So that's just don't underestimate the value of the experience you're providing. And yes, hit the referrals throughout the high points, but then just know that you're going to just get so much more better quality handoffs. And then you can't let them down. Don't be the goofball. You've got to follow through with, what they've talked you up to be. But they've done the hard part for you. Now it's just a matter of, hey, you took care of Bob. Now show me what you do. It's easy. Sure.
Nice. Aaron, what do you wish you knew early in your career that you didn't find out till later that would be something nice to share with everyone?
Something that I found out later. Well, for me, I didn't become a realtor until I joined Century 21. I wish I had found out about Century 21 when I first got into the business. And people just think, they're like, well, how much of that business did you have that came from Century 21? And I say all of it, because it's the tools and the systems and the leadership and the support and the name brand and all of those things. Yes, I have the skills, but they helped to develop them, because in my first 7 years, I closed 26 transactions in 7 year period. And it's like, that's, how can you eat? How can you live? I had to drive Uber and do all that. So yeah, just learning more about the associations and the bigger name brands, because I didn't know any of that stuff early on.
No, that's a great point. A lot of times people don't necessarily understand the power behind that. So I think that that's a really great point to bring up. Dawn, how about you? What do you wish you had known early in your career?
We'll wait, Dawn. We'll wait.
I'm not on
Is it
mute.
muted?
You pointed that out a couple times.
I'm not on mute. I think I find a mentor. If you're new to the business, find a mentor. Find someone, like Aaron or Cabot, that are doing it, that get it. I find someone that is better than you, and be a sponge. Because I struggled, Aaron, I struggled too my first few years of real estate until I started, I actually attended my first Mike Ferry seminar, joined his coaching program. Somebody was holding me accountable. So not your wife, not your husband, not your significant other, or your kids, but someone, maybe someone in your company, maybe your branch manager, your sales manager, your broker. Someone needs to hold you accountable and make sure that you're doing the work, because we are independent contractors, and so we have a tendency to make excuses all over the place for not working. So once I focused, once I had a mentor, and every Wednesday I knew I was on that accountability call, I couldn't tell him I hadn't done anything. I had to tell him my numbers. I had to know my numbers, and I had to tell him what I'd done. So it really focused my business. So find someone that's better than you to mentor you.
Nice. And Cabot, I know you're fairly early in your career and you're doing a lot of great, wonderful things, but there has to be something that you look back and go, gosh, I just wish I knew that as soon as I started in the real estate industry.
Yeah. I probably have 1,000 answers for you, but I will give you some shortage, I guess. But ultimately, just know that know your role is probably the easiest way to sum it up. But the problem of that, when I started, I was like, oh my gosh, that's title. I don't want to get on their toes. Okay. Oh, that's the lender. I don't want to be on their toes. We're independent contractors. Your client has trusted you with probably one of the largest financial assets that they might ever have. Be everywhere. That is your role. Just don't let the ball drop. I was too scared to call title. Hey, you know what? They're probably busy. They got other transactions. They probably do, but the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I found that in every profession. So ultimately, just be the advocate and don't be afraid of stepping on toes. You're never going to have. First off, the only people that matter, their opinions that matter, are your clients that you're representing. So if the lender happens to say, man, your agent's aggressive, is that bad? Right? If that ever comes up, probably not. Your clients will be like, yeah, go get her. Right? And then, I'd also say perception is reality. That's one thing I really want to know. Perception is reality. When I had absolutely zero listings, buyers, anything, my social media looked like I was slam busy. And that goes kind of on to Aaron's point of people are starting to think, wow, other people are trusting him. So I was a cop working real estate full-time while I had a full-time job when I first got going, like a lot of us, right? It's just scary to make that transition. But now they're starting to think, well, if I know he's a cop, that's because they know me. That's who my network is. But they know that other people are trusting me, whether they were or weren't. they thought I was. Perception was reality. And like now, if I get a listing, there's 6 posts. I talked about that on Monday. I do minimum 6 posts per listing throughout the transaction. I sprinkle in personal stuff the entire time, but there's not always the same picture. So that's 6 different houses that my clients are thinking I'm selling. It's one house, 6 different pictures of it throughout the process of it. Now they're like, wow, every day is a closing. If you follow Cabot Brown, like that's what I want, right? And then now they're like, man, that's the guy to go to, is what I've found. And then the biggest takeaway: be the dumbest person in the room. Just take in everything you can. Learn. He or she who knows the contract wins. I found that out. Just train. And when you stop training, either get out of business or kick it back into high gear, because you need to be training on all that stuff, because it's going to change, and you just don't want to be on the other end of lawsuits and that stuff. But that you can't know enough in this business.
Amen.
No, it's
Lisa, can I add something there? I like what Cabot said about being busy. One of the things that I started doing, even in my previous career, I would always give the impression, I say, my team, my team, my team. I was a single agent. I have an assistant now, but I always say my team. And I do have a team. My broker's part of my team. The other agents in my office are part of my team. Title's part of my team. The inspectors, everybody's part of my team. So it was always my team. So it gives this illusion. And then even, for me, with having written the book, that gives a perception. Wow, he's writing books, so he must know his stuff. And so when people see that, they haven't read the book. It might be a bunch of junk in the book, but it's still a book with my name on the cover. And so it gives the impression that I need to check him out and see what he's doing and what he knows.
great. Janice is asking if any of our panelists, if you happened if you would be available for questions, advice, suggestions after today's session. And if so, I see Aaron's put his contact information over there in the chat box. That would be great. And then we have a question from Christy. She is asking, when you don't have listings, what do you post on social media to get attention? So she's looking for some just suggestions for somebody who maybe is getting started or doesn't currently have any listings. What can you post on social media to get attention?
Well, one of the things that I'll say, we use a product called Back at You Media. And within Back at You Media, we have the ability to post other agents in the office. We can post their stuff. Now, you're not marketing that as yours, but you can still use it. You can also market HUD properties. Now, I know everybody's not looking for a HUD property, but again, if you're trying to get the illusion, like Cabot says, if you've got this house and this house and this house, people aren't looking at who the listing agent is. They're looking at the person that posted it. And so you appear to be bigger than life. You appear to be more. And as I said earlier, everything doesn't have to be real estate. Now, for me as a minister, I post gospel stuff. That's my first post every day. And then I have a schedule. I post on Sundays, I post a menu. On Monday, I post something motivational. On Tuesday, there's trivia. Wednesday, there's a word for the day. Thursday, there's a therapeutic topic. Friday, there's finances. And then Saturday is fitness. So that's my topic every week. And I don't even do it anymore. My assistant does it. And people will say, hey, man, that was a great quote. I'm like, what quote? I have to actually go back and like, wow, oh, I do have somebody doing this. So you don't have to post real estate stuff all the time, but you want to put some up there.
Cabot, were you going to say something? It looked like you were.
I was messing up the chat and blowing everybody's messages up. So I put it all in one. Finally put all my info in one spot if they need it.
I have mine in 2 spots. You have to,
sorry
so
about
you have
that,
to be a
guys.
detective.
Yeah, they can figure that out, right? No, I mean that's good stuff. I mean, ultimately, I think to make sure I understood the question, are we saying what? Can you rephrase it so I spit it off a good answer?
Sure, and so somebody was asking, when you don't have a listing and you're trying to generate listings, right? That's what we're trying to do with today's session. What can you post on social media?
Yeah, so when I started, I'm not big on those other websites, Zillow, Realtor.com, and all those things. I don't like I just don't like the business model. But they're sexy. Buyers are there. You got to be there. When I first started, you can scroll back down on my Facebook page. You'll see this. If you go to Realtor.com, very top, there's news and insights. It's a little section. I think all these. You just Google real estate articles, Tampa, Florida, whatever your area, you will find so much material. What I found, and I know 21 Online had this too. I did a lot of stuff from there. you'll find these things that are like, the 4 hottest pool homes and whatever, the six most expensive properties in Tampa, Florida, those kind of little things that have numbers assigned to them. I don't know. I got a lot of engagement that way. I would share that on my business page, but I'd always comment, wow, I love number 4. What are your thoughts? Or great article from realtor.com today on saving for down payments. Number 2 helped me and my wife tremendously, right? Things that are like, wait a minute, what number 2? I don't really want to know. Like, now I want to know. They'll click it, they'll engage with you. You're starting to brand yourself as the expert by sharing other people's material. In my market, you can call, everybody, so you can call, and not many people will reject the idea of you sharing their listing if you give them credit for it. Some will, but you can try that if you don't have access to a tool like Aaron mentioned. But same with other agents in your brokerage. Most people are willing to kind of help you out. Don mentioned it earlier, getting a mentor, somebody that are, there's so many tools out there. You just got to get a little creative. Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to share? And then those articles I found made me start painting the picture of being an expert, if you will, even though I've never sold a home when I did it. And then Aaron was, to his point, personal material within that. Now I'm just getting engagement. You're just becoming the name. All my social media handles are Cabot Brown Real Estate, Cabot Brown Real Estate, Cabot Brown Real Estate. The only reason I did that in my own head, which is zero study to back this, but every time they see Cabot Brown or Cabot Brown liked your picture, no, Cabot Brown Real Estate liked your picture. Cabot Brown Real Estate shared a post. And I'm just subconsciously putting out there, Cabot Brown Real Estate, Cabot Brown sells real estate. So that's what I would be doing. That's exactly what I did. I remember being
absolutely leverage your office's inventory. Just make sure the broker's good with that. We've got agents that are like I said, the Wednesday walkthroughs. They're not their listings, but they're posting. Also go through, let the public know through your Facebook that you're out previewing property, that you're out showing property. Let them know what you're doing. If you don't have a current listing, you can certainly, post a video live. It's like, hey, I'm out previewing property in Applewood Estates today. Just let them know they've got to know you're working.
I do need to say to please check with your local leadership team, because in some areas you are not able to promote another agent's listing, or if it's an agent within your office, make sure that you are getting checking with them and giving them making sure that they're okay with that. But again, make sure that you check with your local areas to know that is allowable.
Yeah, get that in writing too. Just like I did say, don't pick up the phone call, but then I always follow up with an email, just confirming I'm okay to do something like that. And then that way you just have a paper trail. That's the cop side talking. But, some old videos I did too, whenever, if you're out there walking your dog, if you're out there practicing opening doors, if you're new and you don't have any listings, right? Just like Don said, you want to look busy. I've shot many videos on a boat of a condominium complex, showing the buyers what it looks like from the water view. Like, there's me on my boat and just myself, but perception is reality. And now they're thinking I'm showing waterfront property and I'm giving the full experience, because now you can come on a boat and see what your view looks like from the front porch looking in, that kind of thing. So, and
you don't need permission for that.
Exactly. Same with dog parks, anywhere, wherever you are, tie it into real estate.
If you're driving by a subdivision that you like, take a picture of the front of the subdivision. Like I said, Applewood Estates. Hey, I really like Applewood Estates, or, I just be busy or look busy.
Yep. Exactly.
Walk the walk.
You guys, we are at the end of our 90 minutes, and I cannot thank you enough. I know everyone who is tuned in today has really gained some really important information, some great ideas and suggestions. And I thank the 3 of you for sharing your contact information so that they can reach out to you with additional questions or advice. Also, this session is being recorded. So if you wanted to watch it again, go to the event page and you can watch that playback. It will be available for a period of time. I don't know what that period of time is, not forever. Any final words, Aaron?
Go and get some listings. Go and here, the one word I will say: do not become buyer biased, because we spend a lot of the time on getting listings and we want listings, but don't become buyer biased, because if you got a greater pool of buyers, then you need to do something if you don't have listings.
Great. Thank you, Aaron, so much. Dawn? You're muted.
I'm sorry, my landscaper just showed up, but I gave him the I've said it before, be relentless. You've got to focus. This is your decide if you're making a living or making a life. Be relentless. Make this a passion, and it's going to carry you for 43 years.
Great. Thank you, Dawn. And Cabot, final words for everybody.
Yeah, I'll be brief. And so mine was just all about execution. I've sat in the beginning of my career, real estate wise, I sat in a lot of trainings, did a lot of webinars, all that kind of good stuff. And then I went home, and then that was cool. I had a great notebook full of notes that I never opened again. And then I started doing, like, once I started implementing what I'm hearing on these different scenarios and outlooks and learning from these folks, that's when change came to me. That was when the difference I saw in my business. So, you know, I said this on Monday, some of you are going to implement this stuff. Most of you probably aren't, but if you don't, like, if you're in my market, I will, and you won't, you'll be out of business in 5 years. I won't be. And what is it going to look like in your market? If you're not doing these little things, somebody else is going to. So they're either going to get your clients or you're going to keep your clients and build on theirs. Choice is yours.
Fantastic. Well, again, thank you all so much. Everyone, have a great weekend, and we will see you back for our final week in Celebrate 21 on Monday. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Lisa, Cabot, Dawn. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Appreciate it.
I'm excited to know
Oh.
all